Hello and welcome to the CBSE Class 12 English course here on Study with Sudhir. I hope all of you are doing well. Today we are going to be discussing this poem called Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda, which is the pen name of a rather longish name, and we are glad that he took this pen name because his real name is Neftali Ricardo Reyes Bosalto, and he was born in Chile, in South America. And Neruda's poems are pretty relevant to the world that we live in, and he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. And in this particular poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection. So it's pretty interesting in that way, and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. Kya matlab hai? I will tell you in this particular video. Okay, I hope you can see this, or should I increase the size even more? Okay, let me increase it. I hope it fits into the camera. It does. Yay. This watermark is so... Okay. Let's now start with the story. But before I start telling you line by line, word by word explanation, what is the story about? Now, Pablo Neruda was known as a pacifist. Pacifist is a person. A pacifist is a person. Let me write it in case if you don't know the spelling. Notes pe hai waise, but always better to. A pacifist is a person who has a position against war, against violence of any kind. Okay. Now, it is an anti-war poem in many cases. In fact, there is a specific reference to war also in the middle of the poem. Also, it talks about the necessity for quiet introspection. Introspection is that when you spend some time thinking about introspection, okay, when you think, when you do meditation, for instance, when you do meditation, you kind of try to shut out all the other kind of extraneous surround sound coming, and you kind of try to focus, and while you are focusing, your mind is on a certain decision that you may have taken, and it gives you a moment of introspection, whether you did the right thing or not, right? Or when you are spending some time alone, it gives you time to reflect upon something that you may have done in the recent past, and whether that was the right thing to do, or whether you made some mistake, right? So introspection is that kind of a feeling now, or process, let me say. Okay. He's obviously in this poem highlighting the problems that he has with violence, the problems that he has with cruelty to any form of animal life, any form of plant life, environment in general, right, to the plight of manual workers. He highlights all that, and he says that, the ultimate aim is really to cleanse every heart, that we are able to find a connect between human beings if we focus on the larger good instead of any kind of harm or hurt. Okay, so let's get started with the poem. I have put each one of them as stanzas, and the first line is different. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. Now, what is it talking about? Why is it talking about 12? Ye 12 ka kya connection hai? Now, he says that let's all count till 12 and not do anything, and remain still, no movement, no talking. Now, why is he asking us to count till 12? Because at 12 is the precise moment when the two dials of the clock completely overlap each other at a digit, right? Someone asked me, but this happens at 3, at 4, at 5, at 6 also. I don't know about the clock that you use at your home. The clock at my home, the two dials don't overlap exactly at 4 or 5 or 6. Let's say 6:30, right? The moment it will overlap would probably be at around 6:33. It will not be at 6. So it won't be at a particular digit. So that is something which you need to know. So it's only at 12 when the two dials completely overlap each other, right? So when they overlap each other, what happens? You see only one. It becomes one. So there is a moment of, unity. There is a moment of oneness, togetherness at that point in time, which is why is the significance of the digit 12. Okay. So Neruda is asking everyone to unite like the hands of the clock. Like the hands of the clock, it completely overlaps at 12, right? Not at 1, not at 2, not at 3, right? So 12, apart from the hands of the clock, is also an important figure because there are 12 months in a year. है ना? There are 12 months in a year. So the concept of time, or let's say timelessness, is emphasized. That is, one cycle of 12 ends December, then again it starts with January. So 12 in that sense conveys time, the moment of time, and it is timeless because 12 months followed by 12 months followed by another 12 months followed by another 12 months, it keeps going on. So there is a sense of timelessness associated with the concept of time itself. So both in terms of the hands of the clock, also in terms of the 12 months of the year, right? But here specifically is talking about the clock. Now, the poet also says that there will be no language spoken if the human beings kept still, right, till the count of 12 and not move our arms so much, right? So for once on the face of the earth, when everyone is keeping still is the important phrase. For once on the face of the earth, let us not speak in any language. Chuppi, keep quiet, maun vrat. Let us stop for 1 second, right? Even if it is a 1 second, and not move our arms so much, right? So he's saying that let's not move our arms so much. He's talking about keeping still, that is, not move our arms so much. He's also punning on the words arms, because arms is also used to convey weapons, right? It's also used to convey weapons. So he's saying that let's not move our weapons for destruction and use them for destroying anyone else or anything else. So Neruda wants everyone to pause their restlessness, keep still, not move around anywhere, and the inclination to go to war, to use the weapons. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Very interesting lines. What is he saying out here? Why is he calling it exotic? I'll tell you in a moment. This and this are kind of interlinked. He's saying that normally what happens, we're used to the cars, we're used to the sound of the machines, right? The AC running, right? The computer running, slight sound kind of thing. So there is a sound, there is the rush of the traffic, we are caught in the traffic, the machines, there is always a lot of sound around us, right? But when for that moment, when everyone would press the pause button and keep still, there would be a moment of silence. And we are not used to that silence, which is why it will look and sound and you'll feel it is a strange kind of an experience. Sudden, because it will all be sudden and it will be strange. And that will make it extremely exotic. Okay, so he's saying that it will be an exotic moment without any rush, right? Because machines, engines, they all convey what? They convey modernization, the modern way of life, be it a washing machine, be it an air conditioner, be it the blaring TV, or be it the sound of the motorbike or the car honking, right? They all convey some kind of a industrialization, some kind of a mechanization. When all that will be completely shut off, it will be a unique moment of silence, right? The machines will be silent. And that's when you would be able to kind of enjoy that rather exotic moment. Okay, so exotic is used in the sense of something which is strange, which is alien to our nature. We are not used to this kind of an exotic moment anymore. I mean, when was the last time you experienced silence? Trust me, if you actually keep still, shut off all the machines at home, you will actually be able to hear the sound of the clock moving. I have experienced that myself, especially since I'm used to getting up very early in the morning, and when there is absolute quiet, you are actually able to hear the sound of the seconds moving, the clock moving. Otherwise, it's something which you would never kind of even register in your senses, right? The poet calls it strangeness because humans are not used to stillness, and in this very technology-driven world, we have become strangers to each other. We text each other, we don't talk to each other, right? So we communicate through a machine, right? We communicate through a machine, through the written word. There is no, I don't hear your voice. I don't see you. Okay, these days you may say WhatsApp calls, everything, we are able to see each other. But are we able to feel each other? Are we able to touch each other? Are we able to hold hands? We are not. So there is a sense of strangeness which has kind of crept in. So when we are together in this moment of exotic silence, Pablo Neruda says, it will all feel very strange. So you see, every stanza is operating at two different levels. I'm giving you two different kind of meanings. One this and another meaning in terms of human beings with each other, right? So strange friendship. We all have virtual friends. Oh, I have 1,000 friends on Facebook. I have 2,000 followers on Instagram. Do you know all the 2,000 of them? Can you count all of them as your friends? You cannot. So, the term friendship also has become rather different. We say, he's my Facebook friend. We may not even know anything about the person, but we are Facebook friends. We are not real friends. So, friendship as a term also has kind of evolved and has different kind of meanings now. Okay. Stanza 3. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. When there is this moment of silence, when everybody would press the pause button, at that time fishermen will not go into the cold sea, and therefore their nets will not catch the whales, and they would not be harming the whales. Okay, which is precisely what happens. You see many dead whales coming on shore, etc. Right? So that would essentially stop. So basically he's talking about anyone killing or harming animal life for their own selfish purposes. So whales and fishermen are just the representative that the poet has used in this particular context. And the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. The man who is involved in the process of kind of gathering salt from near the shore, and that causes a lot of injuries to his hands, he would be able to pause and look at the kind of hurt that has been caused, the harm that has been caused to his hands. He would be able to look at the injuries that his hands, injury marks on his hands. So that is what. So this is a reference to mankind in general, because we abuse the environment and do not think of the harm that is happening to Mother Earth and its future generations, right? So it is, it's also a pointer to how man is depleting human resources, harming himself in the bargain, right? Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Now he's talking about wars. He's spoken about animal life, human life. Now he's talking about wars in general. What is green wars? Green wars are wars when you're harming the environment. Okay. Wars with gas, using atomic or nuclear weapons. Wars with fire, similarly. Victory with no survivors. This is an extremely important phrase that he has used. So wars fought with gas, chemical wars, biochemical war, nuclear wars, wars with fire. And poet calls these wars as victories without any survivors, because a victory where there will be nobody to celebrate and rejoice ki okay, jeet ho gayi hai, because everyone will be dead in the same war, right? So these are wars these are victories which have no survivors. Okay, the wars which leave back no survivors. So the poet now hopes that these people will put on new clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So what is he saying is that he hopes that these people in that moment of stillness would wear clean clothes. Clean clothes is a metaphor for that they would shed their clothes which are stained with blood marks, right? And blood marks of humanity, blood marks of what they have done to the nature, to the environment. Okay, and walk with their brothers, building bonds of brotherhood. Walk with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. They would walk and build those bonds of brotherhood. So basically, to replace a world of war, a world of conflict, with a world of where humanity rules. Okay, peace and brotherhood. And he wants everyone to clean their heart of hatred and any kind of toxicity and negativity. And this is something which is very relevant to you, me, everyone out here. Never write anything, never do anything, never speak anything which will only cause hurt to another human being. And I really want the young generation to embrace this. I find too much of negativity, कि किसको मुंह तोड़ जवाब देना है. तो मुंह तोड़ जवाब दोगे तो who does it reflect to on? It reflects only on your own, the darkness in your own heart and mind that you are trying to put that garbage outside. Don't do that. If you do good, karma is a very powerful thing. It will come back to you to do good to yourself. I'm saying this completely out of context of this poem, but this is also the messaging of this particular poem. So you need to join hands with other brothers and sisters and fellow human beings and just stay quiet in the shade to show that, it is a sense of coolness. It conveys calmness. Okay. As opposed to the heat of the war, of the harm that you're causing to humanity and to mother nature, right? So it's a moment of introspection. When you are sitting in the shade, it gives you the right kind of an environment to be able to think and introspect. Okay, I hope I'm clear. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Now Pablo Neruda realizes, itna 4 stanza likhne ke baad, the poet has realized that people will misinterpret this. People will think total inactivity means death. So he's now clarifying it for you, that what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. So he's saying that silence that he has described does not mean total inactivity. He does not want man to be totally inactive, कि बिल्कुल dullard की तरह बन जाए, भोंदू बन जाए. No, he's not saying that. He says we should be and will be introspecting, looking inwards. He says life is an ongoing process. Life is something which is an ongoing process, and that should not be equated with death. We are not saying that he's not saying that let's all be dead people. He's saying that let us introspect, let us use every moment to think deep within ourselves. And that is a very powerful emotion. Every day, that is something which you should always do. There is something called vitamin G, vitamin of gratitude. To be grateful to people who have done something good to you at some stage in your life. When you were completely down in the dumps, there was somebody who showed you a little bit of a glimmer of hope, or showed you there is light at the end of the tunnel, or showed you the path. You need to be eternally grateful to that person, because if that person had not come into your life at that precise moment in your life, maybe your life would have taken a different turn. So vitamin G is very important. I always believe there is a lot of power in positivity. And that's what I always tell my students, that you need to be good natured, positive to people, because trust me, it will all come back to you. What you are investing in 10% or 25% of goodness today for somebody, the returns will be 100%. The returns will be, and even if that person does not feel gratitude towards you, that person does harm to you, trust me, it does not matter. Everything, by the time you depart from this world, your balance sheet becomes equal. Don't worry at all. Okay. So life is what it is about. So that's what he's saying, that life is an ongoing process and should not be equated with death. And he's saying that I do not want any truck with death. I want no truck with death. He's not saying that I'm talking about death. I'm talking about life, not about death. So he says that life is meant to be lived. And Neruda says that man has not understood himself. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, that we always thought about, ye kaam karna hai, ye target meet karna hai, itna we have to do this business, itna sara kaam karna hai. If you're only obsessed about the moving on with life, and for once we could do nothing, but let's decide that we will not do anything. Now, don't think that I'm telling you to just stop studying and not do anything. No, that's not what I am suggesting. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness, but every day, if you could take out even 10 minutes and think about how you are planning your day, it would probably help your planning process be a bit better. Okay, so poet, basically, Neruda is saying that man has not understood himself, and in this very single-minded pursuit of reckless advancement, the way we put it, of keeping our lives moving, that's what we need all the time. We are being pushed towards destruction, and destruction doesn't necessarily mean, so you could say that, well, I don't harm the environment, I am not harming anyone else, but you are also destroying your own peace of mind. That's also destruction. You're all the time constantly on the treadmill, right? Because you want to achieve certain targets in your life. You need to also sometimes press the pause button. When you're hearing lot of music, sometimes you think, okay, both music sun liya, great music, but let me press the pause button and just enjoy the silence for some time. Let this song play in my mind and not having to hear it with my eardrum, right? So, trapped in a rat race of mad and mindless competition is something which you should strictly try to avoid, right? So, basically, what Pablo Neruda is trying to say is that the man has sacrificed the fulfillment of emotional needs, okay, and never understanding oneself, never understanding oneself. We don't understand what we think this is the way we should be leading our life, and we keep kind of running the race towards that and of threatening ourselves with death. So he's saying that man has sacrificed the fulfillment of emotional needs, and he has become isolated and sad because we are constantly on that treadmill of meeting targets, right? And he believes that the huge silence that you could actually engage in can be some kind of a relief, some kind of a balm for this kind of sadness, and it can help prepare the situation, that it can help the stillness can actually give you that moment of introspection and help you think that, okay, this is how I need to reset my life. Pressing the reset button is always something very important. Now, what I've done is given you a host of questions, a lot of questions and answers. So once you go through that, you will find it very easy. Each and every word also I've explained it even more. What I have now told you, I put it as a question and answer so that if you read it, you know exactly what you need to write in those answers. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. This is again very important. So basically in the last lines, the poet has spoken about a farewell in which he has invited the reader to come and count up to 12. But before that, he says that the earth, during the winter, you think that everything is dead. There is ice all over, right? But the moment spring comes, from the same surface, you see the trees coming with flowers, the plants coming up with flowers, new leaves, young leaves. So life comes. So you may think that the earth can teach us that when everything seems completely dormant also, you realize that everything is actually alive. We thought it was dead, but there was actually life beneath the surface, especially during the winter months. So he says that the earth can actually, with the natural processes, can actually teach us a lesson, and we need to learn that lesson, right? That there is nothing called death, there is life there, but there was, during the winter months in particular, the earth seems to be still. It seems to have gone into hibernation. It seems to have gone into a moment of quiet. It seems to have pressed the pause button. It is absolutely still, and we think it's gone. But no, it's not a case of total inactivity. There is life taking place beneath the surface, and when the moment comes, it springs back to life, literally speaking, right? So that's what. So he says, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So he wants, he's insisting, he started the poem and ended the poem with the same request that let's count up to 12 and keep quiet while we engage in this entire process, right? So that's what he's saying. So that's as far as the poem is concerned. Let's quickly go through the poetic devices that he has used in this particular poem. I've written it all down. Alliteration, he's talking about stop for 1 second, SS, sudden strangeness, would look at his hurt hands, HH, right? Then there is a lot of repetition as a poetic device which has been used, without rush, without engine. So when you use the same word again, it kind of creates a particular emphasis of that particular thought, right? Wars with gas, wars with fire. So he's focused on the word wars out there, right? When analogy, when an idea is illustrated by comparing with something else. For example, the earth can teach us what the earth can teach us when everything seems dead and later proves to be false. Now, what he's saying, he's talking about the idea of stillness by comparing it with the apparent stillness of earth during a particular season. Okay. Then synecdoche, which is without engines. Basically, engines convey the machines, the operations of the machines. So when a part of the objects, engines are not all machines are engines, but he's using the word engines to convey the larger idea of machinery out here. Pun, of course, about, not moving our arms so much. So arms ka punning kiya hai. It means both are literal arms. It also means the weaponry out here. A personification, the attribution of human qualities to an inanimate object. So perhaps the earth can teach us. The earth, well, there is a lot of life on earth, but the earth per se is not seen as a human being, right? So there is personification, that the earth can be a teacher and can teach us. There is assonance, repetition of the similar vowels kind of sounds, right? For once on the face of the earth, O. Then there is paradox, victory with no survivors, very powerful line. Victory with no, I mean, when you say victory, you think that, the whole town, everybody would be celebrating, but there are no survivors. So what kind of a victory are we talking about? It's a rather hollow kind of victory. It's a very unreal kind of a victory, right? Symbolism, the brothers line, that brothers to denote the human beings in general. Enjambment, that is, which has no kind of, the line is not ending, but it kind of, the same thought runs through different lines. That is called enjambment. So there are about 10 different poetic devices which have been used in this particular poem. Okay, and then I have written a whole lot of question and answers. I think there are 10 plus more during the explanation point itself. So about 15 odd question and answers that kind of cover the entire different aspects of the poem, and that should be good enough for you to answer any question that would come in the examination. Tata, bye bye. I hope it's absolutely clear. See you now in the next poem or story. Bye bye.